Alright, so today what we're going to do is a video about Iguana Care. This is a little red iguana. Care for red iguanas and green iguanas is pretty much the same. If you're lucky and you have a blue iguana or an albino iguana, those are all iguana, which is fundamentally the green iguana. However, obviously as you can tell, they all come in a bunch of different colors. This little guy here is a well-started juvenile. He is probably about 3 to 6 months old. Somebody just dropped him off, so he's kind of, his age is a little bit unknown, but he's a real big sweetheart. I'm taking him home, so YouTube, if you want to help me name him, just let me know. Alright, so the care for them is going to be pretty simple. Well, not really, honestly. Iguanas like this are honestly not the easiest animal to take care of. They're definitely a more advanced species. I have seen, maybe out of the hundreds we've seen come through, I've seen maybe a handful of really impressive adult animals that were really beautiful, well-kept pet adult animals. It's just that they tend to need a ton of space, they need good lighting, they need very good diet, and they need good supplementation, and they're not just the easiest thing ever to take care of because they do get 5 to 6 feet long. And iguanas actually go through a puberty or an adolescent stage a lot like people do. Once they hit about 2 to 3 years old, a lot of the times iguanas actually go through a phase where they've got testosterone or other hormones going through their bodies. Male iguanas especially, for a period of time, just kind of lose it. They tend to get a lot meaner or more aggressive, they can be a lot more unpredictable, they can get kind of nasty. A lot of them outgrow it, but a lot of them don't, so it's just something to be prepared for. You know, if you get that baby and you raise up a really sweet, mellow baby, if you don't get the lights right, if you're not caring for it properly, or even just when it hits puberty, it just might not be the same nice animal that you started with. So they're definitely a more advanced reptile species to keep, but because they are a little bit more advanced and because they are a little bit more intriguing in that manner, they can be really rewarding if that's what you're looking for. So, if that's what you're looking for, an iguana like this guy, I like to set up my animals, my basking animals, with the power sun. If you've watched any of the other videos, you know that this is one of my favorite light bulbs. For iguanas who like it really hot and really bright, a power sun is pretty much perfect. For a guy this size or even a baby, the size cage that you're going to need is going to be at least a 4-foot long cage, you know, at least a couple feet tall, relatively large, honestly. So this 100-watt power sun is going to be plenty of heat for that size enclosure. Pretty much if your cage is too small for you to use a 100-watt power sun, it's too small, period, for your iguana. So you need to get a bigger cage. It needs to be big enough to use this kind of light. This is honestly going to be the most cost-effective way to provide your iguana with UVB and heat. So there's the power sun. And then I like using these dual deep domes just because it looks nice, it keeps all your lights in one place, and it's big enough to take both your power sun and your night light, which is going to be one of these nocturnal heat lights. Basically, iguanas are from South America. They're from a part of the world where it really doesn't get that cold at night. You're looking at a drop to maybe the mid-70s at night. So while during the, while at night they don't need to be nearly as warm as they do during the day, you do need to make sure that they don't get too cold either. So while they don't need to have a basking spot from 100 to 130 degrees at night like they do during the day, you do still need to make sure that they stay between 80 and 85 on the hot side at night. So that's where a light like this comes in handy. Pretty much when it comes to this stuff, the power sun for daytime, nightlight for nighttime. Have them on about a 12 to 14 hour cycle for daytime lighting, and then the night bulb is just going to be basically whenever your power sun isn't on. The other aspect, one of the reasons you're getting this big light, which is typically a little bit pricier than your average basking bulb, one reason you're getting that is because you're going to be supplementing with calcium that also contains vitamin D3. This is Reptivite. I like it because it also has vitamins in it. And for an animal like an iguana, which in the wild is going to be eating dozens if not hundreds of different kinds of plants, and you take them and put them in captivity where we're feeding them maybe at best 10 to 20 kinds of plants, and that's high. Most people, if you ask them, can list off 5 plants that they're giving their iguana at any given time. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that you give them a multivitamin, so that way you kind of round out their diet. You pretty much just sprinkle this on their greens once a day when you offer it to them. When it comes to the fresh greens, offer them about 50% fresh leafy greens, if not 70% fresh leafy greens. And the rest of it can be either cheese grated or finely chopped vegetables such as squash, tomato, carrots, pretty much any kind of vegetable that's safe for you or the dog to eat. Mix it up. You want to make sure that there's a lot of variety. And then you want to keep fruit. You can add about 5% fruit to the diet. You just don't want to go too crazy. A lot of iguanas get really spoiled on fruit. Things like banana, mango, strawberries, apples. It's all really sweet. But for an animal like an iguana, that's all candy, pretty much. So just like you wouldn't let your kid eat nothing but candy, you shouldn't let your iguana eat nothing but fruit. There's a ton of pelleted diets and commercially available diets that are great for them. I'm really fond of mixing the RepCow with the Zoo Med pelleted diets. Basically, this stuff is really brightly colored and it's flavored. It honestly smells a lot like Fruit Loops. Whereas the Zoo Med stuff is, when you look at the ingredients, it honestly is a lot better. However, much like oatmeal versus Fruit Loops, oatmeal's better for you, Fruit Loops taste better, and they smell way better. So I usually mix a little bit of this with this, just because it makes the Zoo Med stuff a lot more appetizing. Alright, so this is basically the pelleted food that you can keep on hand as kind of a base, a way to add variety. Because if you look at the ingredients list on these, this entire huge block of text is the ingredients in the Zoo Med pelleted food. That gigantic block of text is probably about 20 to 30 different things that you're not going to be able to add to your iguana's diet on your own. Whereas RepCow has almost as big of an ingredient list. So both of them have a ton of things in there that are going to be hard for you to give your iguana on your own. And so this is a nice, easy way to provide your animals with basically just a little bit of extra variety, a little bit more micronutrients, things like that, which are vital to kind of raising a healthy, happy animal. And on top of that, you can always mix in things like the canned fruit, the mango. This is, where are you going? I use the mango for a lot of my animals, things like, you know, my crested geckos, stuff like that. So basically any leftover fruits that I have for mixing with my fruit-eating animals, I can give to the iguana. And then Zoo Med also makes a really fantastic canned iguana food that they love. We've got iguanas here at the store that come running, like they will jump from across the cage to come eat some of the canned food. So it's, again, a good way to add variety and also great as emergency food. I know right now it's winter in most of the U.S., in all of the U.S. actually. It's winter and in a lot of places it's snowing, it's cold. It's going to be kind of hard to get really good fresh produce. So canned iguana food, if you run out and you just can't make it out to the store, this is the best way to do it. There's also stuff like Zilla has freeze-dried vegetable mix, which again has a ton of has a good few different veggies and stuff in it, as well as the Nature's Own Iguana Bites. And again, it's just basically variety. You want to give them as much different kinds of foods as possible. Variety is going to always be key. If it's green and it has leaves at the store, it's probably okay to give to your iguana. The key is going to be moderation. You don't want to feed them nothing but one thing. I know a lot of folks on the internet, or a lot of care sheets and stuff on the internet will say spinach is bad, maybe not too much kale, you got to worry about exactly how much carrots you give them, or maybe tomatoes, or I don't know. It's basically just what they're looking at is the way that the balance of the nutrients within the plant has a certain high level of things called oxalates, which bind to calcium within the animal's gut and within their kidneys. However, the level of oxalates in any of those foods is a fraction of a % of those foods. So, the whole point of that is basically, as long as you don't feed your iguana nothing but spinach, the amount of oxalates in that spinach doesn't matter. You would have a problem as a person if you ate nothing but spinach as your vegetable. The same kind of logic and the same kind of thing applies to your iguana, your bearded dragon, your tortoise. The big thing is just don't overdo any one thing. If you're feeding spinach with every single meal, and your main green is going to be spinach, your iguana, any animal would have a problem. So basically just make sure that variety is kept up. Variety is the spice of life, and variety is how you make sure that you don't overdo any one thing. There is no problem with any one particular vegetable as long as you switch it up. Here at the store, we go to our local supermarket. We spend, because we have a bunch of animals, so we spend about 20 to 25 bucks on greens, and we get one of everything in the produce department, which the cashiers aren't as big a fan of as we are, because it takes forever to ring up. But basically, it's the easy way to make sure that you feed your animals a varied diet. We just basically get one of everything, and that's how all of our animals here at the store eat really well. So, you've got all that stuff for them to eat, you've got your lights. The other thing you're going to want to do is make sure you check your temperature. Again, like I was saying earlier, these guys want a basking spot of 100 to 120, 130 degrees, but you want to make sure that your cold side of the cage stays below 80. You're going to need a thermometer for that. This is the ZoomEd digital thermometer. I like it because it's stick-on, it's got a little probe, and it'll basically go back and forth. You can move it within the cage if you need to, just leave it in there to get an idea of the ambient temperatures. And then me personally, because again, you're going to have a big cage for these, they're going to get quite large, you want to check surface temperatures. Stuff like this this infrared thermometer, it's this temp gun basically is going to tell you surface temperatures. It's how you're going to check all the basking zones, the cool side, make sure that basically everything is working the way it's supposed to. So these are pretty much a fantastic tool if you have more than one animal, even if you just have one animal. This is going to be the easiest way, flat out easiest way to monitor temperatures. So we've got our infrared temp gun for checking temperatures, all the foods and stuff. When it comes to caging, when it comes to decor, we'll show you a bunch of the different decor items and things like that that we've got around here that you can use. Basically, iguanas are going to be big animals. You're going to need big items. So while a lot of this stuff will work for now, just keep in mind you're probably going to be spending upward between 30 and 50 bucks a piece on large pieces of wood that you can use for your big 5 to 6 foot adult iguana. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, that a baby iguana, a little one like this, a couple $100 to set up. A mature 6 foot adult, easily $500 to $600, $700, $1,000 or more, because you're going to be building a large enclosure, probably put it outside if the weather's good. Basically, you're just going to need a huge cage, and those never come cheap, so kind of keep that in the back of your mind. They're inexpensive as little babies, but as they get older, they're very big, they're expensive to cage as adults, and it's just plain going to be an advanced animal to keep. So we'll go ahead and check out some of the decor items. So you can always add lots of foliage. I've got a red iguana. How do you like that? No? I don't know. Yeah, so you can always add lots of decor, lots of foliage. They'll hide in it. It'll help them feel safe and secure within the cage to have lots of leaves and things to hide in. You're going to want a nice big water bowl, something like this, which is the ZoomEd extra large corner bowl. This is going to be perfect for an iguana this size. As they get bigger, they're going to need a bigger bowl. We do carry a jumbo sized bowl called a constrictor bowl. That would work for a mature adult iguana. It's a really big bowl. It's so big we actually don't have room for it on the shelf, so that tells you just how big it is. That would be perfect for an adult. Humidity wise, these guys do need it humid. They are from the tropics, they are from South America, a very, very humid place. So spray down the cage, add water to the water bowl. You're going to change that every day. And you can also do things like add in a waterfall, you can add in a fogger, a misting system. Again, they require high humidity. If they don't have high enough humidity, they have problems shedding, and this guy is actually an example of that. Because when he was younger, he was having trouble shedding, and he's actually lost some of the spikes here in the middle of his back because the skin got caught around each of his spikes and ended up cutting off the blood flow, and it fell off. That'll happen to their toes, to the tip of their tail, to pretty much any of their extremities. So you're going to want to make sure that humidity stays high within their cage so that they can shed properly and mature into big, beautiful adult animals that you're proud to own. On top of that, and then it comes to all this big decor. We have stuff like this Pacific grapewood, which is extremely inexpensive for just how big of pieces you can get. This is the medium-sized grapewood, as well as the large, and it's anywhere from $13 to $30, depending on just how big of a piece you get. But these are basically good things to kind of branch across the cage. You can do things like the sandblasted pieces. And then my favorite, which is always going to be the large cork flats, which you can use right underneath the basking spot. I prefer cork as the basking area just because wood is going to be warmed, but it's not going to get so hot that it'll ever burn your animals. So you can have a 120-degree basking area, and that'll be perfect. This isn't going to ever burn their feet or cause any burns or anything, which can be a concern if you have rock or any kind of hard surfaces. And lastly, there's going to be stuff like the cypress mulch and orchid bark that you can use as substrate. Basically, these guys are kind of funny in that they definitely have a routine. They have a way that they like to do things. So if you establish a routine with your iguana, if you always take it out in the morning to give it a bath and soak it and let it kind of take a drink and then poop and then get all of that out of the way, your cage will probably stay pretty close to spotless most of the time, unless it gets mad at you, in which case they are kind of known to smear poop and just kind of have a fit. I have a couple of friends with large iguanas, and every so often they have a bad day, and they are definitely those animals that have a heck of a personality, and so when they're mad at you, they're mad. They will make a mess, they'll destroy the cage, you'll know if you've messed up. But aside from that, you can just pretty much set them up in a nice beautiful cage, put in your foliage, put the bark in, and you're only going to really need to clean out most of it every 3 to 4 months at most, if you are taking the iguana out and soaking it every morning to make sure that it poops and drinks and basically is beautiful. The biggest advice I can give you is to establish a routine. Once your iguana gets used to the way you do things, to the routine of your life, basically how its life is supposed to go, they're happy little animals. They don't mind handling, interaction. They actually like it. They don't mind it at all. It's just that you have to establish a routine so they know what to expect. Once you do that, you'll find that your life is a heck of a lot easier. A lot of people have big, mean, crazy iguanas. Pretty much what they need is just to learn that there's a routine, that there's something going on, kind of just establish a relationship with the iguana. These are extremely smart lizards that get very large. A bite from them is no joke, tail whipping is no joke, their claws are gnarly. So pretty much you want to raise up an animal that you can work with, that's enjoyable for you and the animal to interact with each other. So basically establish your routine, get them used to something, set your cage up real nice, and then just make sure that if you get a baby, you're planning for later on that 5 to 6 foot adult that's going to require a big enclosure, a custom enclosure, things like that. Then the very last thing is going to be reptariums, which are going to be the easiest way to kind of give them some outdoor sunlight, especially while they're smaller like this. So this is the 65-gallon reptarium. It is 16.5 inches by 30 inches by 28 inches. It's the absolute smallest that I recommend for starting your baby iguana off in if you're going to house it outdoors. If you're in a pinch and if you're in a bind, you can also use this as a cage, but it is going to be kind of difficult to maintain heat and humidity in one of these fully meshed cages. But the nice thing is that you can put it outside, you can hose it down. It is a really easy way to kind of move them around. The cages themselves are actually really inexpensive, so it's a great option if you're pretty much just looking for your starter cage, especially in the summer, because you'll be keeping your iguana outdoors or kind of moving it around, building your custom enclosure for when it gets larger. These are awesome. This is one of these is actually what I use for my guy. I keep him outdoors when the weather's good anyway. He's going to go outdoors in the 175-gallon reptarium that we carry, where he's going to get lots of natural sunlight, which makes it really fantastic for him and easy. And if you have the reptariums, you can also use things like these magnetic ledges to kind of provide basking areas and places for him to hide and sleep. Magnetic ledges are also easy to move, they're not permanent, so again, it's another easy way to you can adapt it for when you move them to the bigger cage. And it basically makes life a heck of a lot easier. Okay, so that's it. Make sure that you sign up for the Reptile Times so you can hear all about this kind of stuff. We've got great articles all about the latest and greatest in reptile husbandry, amphibian husbandry, and vertebrate husbandry, where we discuss all the kinds of tools and products and things that you're going to need to properly care for your animals. It's a completely free online magazine, so make sure that you sign up. Again, it's totally free. We send it to your email inbox on the 1st of every month, and we have a contest where you get prizes in there as well. So what do you have to lose? The sign up for that is going to be www.thereptiletimes.com. And then if you want to order everything you saw in this video, if you want to ask us more questions, if you want to see what kind of animals or supplies or feeders we have in stock, you can always visit our website at www.LLLReptile.com, where we have pretty much everything you just saw in this video, including iguanas, and a lot of times we often have red iguanas in stock as well. All of that's going to be available on our website. So there you have it. That was our informational video for this week. We'll see you back here next Sunday.